Those damn kids and their TikToks. Got themselves killed chasing clout in the canyon. At least that's what I kept telling myself until I saw Ranger Davis walking toward me in the dark and realized his knees were bending backward. My name's Connor Wade. I've been a deputy with San Miguel County Sheriff's Department for 6 years now, working the eastern edge of New Mexico where the high desert meets the reservation boundary. It's quiet work most of the time. Drunk drivers on Highway 54, domestic calls, the occasional meth lab out in the scrublands. Nothing that prepares you for what I'm about to tell you. Nothing that prepares you for the moment you realize folklore isn't fiction. It started in late September of this year, 23rd to be exact, Thursday afternoon, about 2 p.m. I was finishing up paperwork at the substation in Colonias when dispatch called about an abandoned vehicle at the Red Basin trailhead, Honda Civic, Oregon plates. Been sitting there 3 days according to the trail volunteer who called it in. I drove out there expecting the usual. Some college kid who twisted an ankle and got airlifted out. Forgot to tell anyone about their car. Happens more than you'd think. The trailhead sits on BLM land, right where the National Forest peters out into that broken country along the reservation line. It's pretty enough. Juniper and piñon, red sandstone walls. But it's not Yosemite. Most hikers stick to the maintained trails closer to town. The drive takes about 40 minutes from Colonias. You leave the main highway, take Forest Road 213 through the scrubland, past the old quarry that shut down in the 90s. The road turns to washboard gravel after about 10 miles. Cell service drops to nothing around mile marker 8. Just you and the desert and the hawks circling overhead. I pulled into the trailhead parking area at 2:53 p.m. The Civic was the only vehicle there. Dark blue, layer of red dust on the hood thick enough to write your name in. Oregon plates with a university parking sticker in the rear window. I ran the tags before I got out. Registered to a Tyler Brennan, 22 years old, student at University of Oregon. No warrants, no priors. Clean driving record, just a kid on a road trip. The car was unlocked. That was the first thing that bothered me. Out here, you lock your vehicle. Everyone knows that. Ravens will peck at rubber seals. Pack rats will nest in your engine. People passing through will help themselves to whatever you leave visible. But the driver's door opened when I tried the handle. Just swung right open like he'd meant to come back in 5 minutes. His wallet was in the glove box. I could see it through the plastic. License visible through the clear window. Credit cards tucked behind it. What looked like $40 or $50 in cash. Phone on the passenger seat. Screen cracked like it had been dropped. Battery dead when I tried to turn it on. I popped the trunk. Backpack. North Face. Looked new. Full Camelback reservoir. I could feel the weight when I lifted the pack. 3 liters at least. Energy bars in the side pocket. Still sealed. First aid kit in the top compartment that had never been opened. I could tell because the plastic wrapper was still intact. Barcode sticker unpeeled. Sunscreen. Bug spray. Extra pair of socks still in the packaging. You don't leave your water if you're planning to hike. You don't leave your phone if you think you might need help. And you sure as hell don't leave your wallet with cash in it sitting in an unlocked car. I called it in to dispatch, requested search and rescue. And while I waited, I walked the trailhead perimeter. The parking area is just packed dirt with space for maybe 8 vehicles, carved out of the scrubland decades ago. There's a weathered BLM sign with a trail map that's been sun-bleached to the point you can barely read the contour lines. Metal box for overnight permits bolted to a post, door hanging open on one hinge. Trash barrel that hadn't been emptied in a month. I could smell it from 10 feet away. That sweet rot stink of food waste baking in the sunday. Beyond the parking area, the trail cuts into a narrow canyon between 2 sandstone walls, heading northeast toward the reservation boundary about 4 miles in. The canyon mouth looked like a throat in the afternoon light. Narrow, dark, shadows already gathering even though sunset was hours away. Something about it made the hair on my arms stand up. I found Tyler's boot prints pretty easily. The soil near the trailhead is sandy, loose, fine as powder in places. Holds prints well if there hasn't been wind. Men's hiking boots, size 10 or so, aggressive tread pattern. Salomon or Merrill, probably. He'd signed the trail register 3 days prior. I flipped through the weathered notebook in the permit box. September 20th, 7:45 a.m., solo hiker, planning a day hike to the basin overlook and back, 12 miles round trip. Should have been back by sunset 3 days ago. Search and rescue arrived around 4 p.m. 6 volunteers, 2 county deputies backing me up, and a search coordinator named Laura Chen who I'd worked with on maybe a dozen operations over the years. Good people. Experienced. They knew the terrain, knew the protocol, knew how to grid search without contaminating sign. They broke into 3 teams, started working the trail systematically. 2 teams on the main path, 1 team checking the side canyons. I stayed at the trailhead coordinating, marking their GPS positions on the map every 30 minutes. They searched until dark. Found nothing. Not a bandana. Not a water bottle. Not a granola bar wrapper. Nothing. Next morning they went back out at first light. Combed that canyon for 12 hours straight. Used tracking dogs. Bloodhounds from the state police. Flew a drone with thermal imaging. The whole 9 yards. Still nothing. No gear. No clothing. No blood. No scuff marks indicating a struggle or a fall. No disturbed soil where someone might have gone off trail. Just his car sitting there like he'd stepped out to take a piss and vanished into the desert air. Tyler Brennan was the 3rd person to disappear from Red Basin Trail in 2 months. The first was a woman named Sarah Vickers, 41 years old, solo hiker from Albuquerque, worked as a dental hygienist, vanished in late July, July 27th to be exact. They found her Subaru at the same trailhead, key still in the ignition, purse on the passenger seat with her phone inside showing 3% battery. She told her girlfriend she'd be back by 6 p.m. for dinner reservations. Never showed up, never called. Her girlfriend reported her missing at 9 p.m. SAR spent a week looking for her, worked in shifts around the clock, brought in volunteers from 3 counties, covered every inch of that trail system, checked every side canyon, every wash, every place someone might take shelter or fall or get turned around. Never found a trace. Not her pack, not her water bottles, not a single article of clothing. Like she'd been erased from existence. Then James Coe, 28 years old, software engineer from Santa Fe, disappeared August 15th. Experienced backpacker, had done sections of the Continental Divide Trail, the Arizona Trail, knew his way around the desert. His truck was locked when they found it 2 days later, unlike Tyler's car, but his day pack was still inside. Trail running, vest, empty. He texted his brother from the trailhead that morning saying the weather looked perfect. The view was going to be amazing. That was the last communication anyone had with him. SAR found one thing during James's search. Just one. His baseball cap. San Francisco Giants. Faded orange and black. Hanging from a juniper branch about 3 miles in. Just hanging there. Like someone had placed it carefully. No other sign of him anywhere near it. 3 people. 3 months. Same trail. Same pattern. Vehicles left behind with valuables inside. Like they'd just stepped away for a moment and planned to come right back. After Tyler, the pressure started mounting. His parents flew in from Oregon. Nice people. Destroyed. Local TV news ran stories. Mystery disappearances, plague, remote hiking trail. Regional papers picked it up. Social media exploded with theories. The sheriff held a press conference on October 1st. I stood in the back of the room at the county building while he faced the cameras and worried parents and angry hikers demanding answers. He warned people to hike in groups, carry satellite communicators, stay on marked trails, let someone know their plans. All the standard safety talk we give every tourist season. That's when the TikTok theory started circulating. Some reporter from Albuquerque, young guy, maybe 25, hungry for a story. He interviewed a teenager outside the press conference. Kid explained this thing called the Vanish Challenge. Apparently it was trending on TikTok over the summer. You hike into a remote area, post a cryptic video about disappearing or finding something unexplained, then go dark on social media for a few days. Your followers freak out, comments pile up, worried messages flood your DMs. Then you resurface with a, "I'm okay, here's what really happened" video and watch your follower count explode. The algorithm loved it. Fear and mystery equal engagement. Some kids were getting hundreds of thousands of views. The reporter's story went live that night. By morning, it had been picked up by 3 regional news stations and a dozen websites. Suddenly, everyone had an explanation that made sense. Stupid kids doing stupid things for internet points. They probably got themselves lost playing games with their followers, wandered off trail chasing the perfect shot, ended up dying of exposure or falling off a cliff into some crack in the earth where we'd never find them. Made perfect sense. Right? The sheriff bought it. The department bought it. The county commissioners bought it and started talking about liability and warning signs. Hell, I bought it. Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation is usually correct, and idiot influencers was a lot simpler than what actually turned out to be true. But the locals didn't buy it, not for a second. The folks who'd lived in colonias for generations, especially the Navajo families near the reservation boundary, they weren't talking about TikTok challenges. They were talking about something else entirely. I started hearing whispers around town. At the gas station when I'd stop for coffee in the mornings. At the hardware store when I'd pick up supplies for the substation. At the diner on Route 54 where I'd grab lunch most days. Maria's Cafe, run by a woman who'd fed 3 generations of locals and knew everyone's business. Always the same thing, said quietly when they thought I wasn't listening. Or maybe when they thought I was listening but wouldn't understand. Something walking wrong in the canyon. Yi Naodlushi, Skinwalker. The word would hang in the air for a moment like smoke. People would look at me, the white cop from Farmington, and they'd go quiet. Change the subject. Talk about the weather or the price of gas or whose kid was getting married. But I heard it enough times that I couldn't ignore it. I'm not Navajo. I grew up in Farmington on the northern edge of the res. Moved to Albuquerque for college. Came back to this area for the job 6 years ago. My ex-wife was half Diné. That's how I ended up working this part of the county. But we divorced 3 years back and she moved to Phoenix. No kids, thankfully. Point is, you work the res boundary long enough. You hear the stories. You sit in people's kitchens taking statements about domestic disputes or stolen livestock. And sometimes, if they trust you, they'll tell you things. Old things. Things that aren't in any official report. Witches who wear animal skins to gain dark powers. Shapeshifters who can become coyotes or wolves or owls. Things that mimic voices to lure people into the dark. Things that hunt in the spaces between what's known and what's feared. I'd always figured they were just stories. Cultural folklore. Warnings. Wrapped in metaphor. The Navajo equivalent of don't talk to strangers or look both ways before crossing. Useful lessons for keeping kids safe. But not literally true. They weren't real. Couldn't be real. On October 3rd, we got our 4th disappearance. I was on patrol that afternoon, running radar on Highway 54 near the junction with Route 63, when dispatch called. Hikers at Red Basin reporting an overdue member of their party. Female, 19 years old, 3 hours past expected return time. I was 15 minutes from the trailhead. I hit the lights and went. Her name was Amanda Herrera, 19 years old, freshman at New Mexico Highlands University up in Las Vegas. She'd driven down that morning with 2 friends for a day hike. Amanda was training for a half marathon. Wanted to push her pace on some elevation, get her legs used to the altitude. Her friends, Katie and Jessica, both 19, both scared out of their minds when I got there, said Amanda had gone ahead around 10 a.m. She was faster than them, didn't want to slow down for their pace. The plan was she'd loop the Basin Trail and meet them back at the parking lot by 1 p.m. It was 4:15 p.m. when I arrived. The friends had already called 911 at 3, when Amanda was 2 hours overdue. They'd walked the first mile of the trail, calling her name, checking their phones obsessively even though there was no signal. Nothing. I called for SAR, told the friends to stay at the trailhead in case Amanda came back, grabbed my pack and my radio and headed in alone, calling her name every 50 yards. Amanda Herrera. My voice bounced off the canyon walls, came back to me hollow and distorted. The canyon was dead quiet. I mean, dead quiet. No wind, no birds, no insects buzzing, no lizards skittering across the rocks. Nothing but my boots on the packed dirt and my own breathing and the echo of my voice disappearing into the stone. It felt wrong. Desert canyons are never that quiet. There's always something. Ravens croaking, cicadas thrumming in the heat, the whisper of wind through juniper branches, but this was like the whole place was holding its breath. I made it about 1.5 miles in before the light started failing. The sun was dropping behind the western canyon wall, shadows pouring across the trail like water. SAR wouldn't be able to mobilize until morning. Too dangerous in the dark, with the loose rock and the drop-offs. I was about to turn back when I saw them. Tracks. I swept my flashlight across a dry wash that cut across the trail, and there they were in the sandy soil. Boot prints. Fresh ones. Recent enough that the edges were still crisp, hadn't collapsed yet. Women's size 7 or 8. Athletic shoes based on the tread pattern. Could have been Amanda's. I followed them for maybe 30 yards, tracking my flashlight beam from print to print. Then they changed. The stride lengthened. Not gradually. Suddenly. One step was normal, 14 inches or so. The next was almost 3 feet, like whoever was walking had started taking giant steps, or like something had picked them up and set them down farther ahead. The depth changed too. The early prints were deep, pressed firm into the sand, weight of a full-grown person, but the later prints were shallow, barely denting the surface, like whoever was making them suddenly weighed half as much. And then the boot prints started mixing with something else. Paw prints. Big ones. Canine, maybe. 4 toes. Claws leaving deep gouges. But the toes were too long, too splayed out like fingers, and the prints were too big. Bigger than any dog. Bigger than a wolf or coyote. The prints alternated. Boot, boot, paw, boot, paw, paw, boot, paw, boot. Like whatever was making them couldn't decide what it wanted to be, or like it was learning how to walk on 2 legs instead of 4. I stood there in that canyon with my flashlight, feeling every hair on my body stand up. Cold sweat broke out across my back despite the evening warmth. My hand went to my sidearm without me thinking about it. Glock 40, 15 rounds in the mag, 1 in the chamber. I've tracked plenty of people through rough country over the years. Runaways hiding in the arroyos. Domestic violence suspects fleeing into the desert. Lost hikers. I've seen bear tracks, mountain lion tracks, coyote tracks. I've seen prints where someone was running full sprint. Prints where someone was injured and dragging a leg. Prints where someone was carrying something heavy. I'd never seen anything like this. I marked the location with a GPS waypoint. Coordinates logged at 35.726 degrees north, 105.391 degrees west. Took photos with my phone. Used my boot for scale in the frame. Documented the transition from human to animal prints. Then I hiked back out, moving faster than I probably should have, trying not to think about what might be watching from the dark spaces between the junipers. Trying not to think about the fact that Amanda Herrera was still out there. SAR mobilized at first light the next morning. Full team, 8 volunteers, 3 deputies, 2 K9 units, the drone operator from County Emergency Services. They worked that canyon in a systematic grid, checking every side canyon, every wash, every place someone could fall or take shelter. They found Amanda's body on October 5th. 2 days after she disappeared. She was 4 miles past where the official trail ended, way off in a narrow side canyon to the northwest that required technical climbing to access. Sheer sandstone walls 30 feet high, loose scree at the bottom, no marked path. The kind of place you don't go unless you've got ropes and climbing gear and a really good reason. She'd fallen. At least that's what the medical examiner ruled. Blunt force trauma to the head, multiple fractures consistent with a high fall, internal injuries, cervical spine fracture. Death would have been relatively quick based on the severity of the head wound. Recovery team had to rappel down to reach her. Brought her out in a litter. I was there when they loaded her into the county coroner's van. Watched them zip the body bag. Watched her friends collapse into each other crying. Had to call her parents in Española and tell them their daughter was gone. Worst call I've ever had to make, and I've made a lot of bad calls. But here's the thing that kept bothering me. The thing I couldn't let go of. Amanda's friend said she was terrified of heights. Wouldn't even climb the indoor wall at the campus rec center. They'd tried to get her to go rock climbing with them once, and she'd had a full-blown panic attack just looking at the cliff face. That's what Katie told me. Crying, trying to make sense of why Amanda would be in that side canyon at all. Why would she scramble up a 30-foot cliff face in an unmarked canyon, in an area she'd never been, with no rope, no gear, no reason, when she was deathly afraid of heights? And her boots, when they brought her body out. When I saw her before they zipped the bag, her boots were clean, bone dry. Not a speck of mud or sand on them. The soles looked like they'd just come out of the box. Like she'd been walking on pavement, not hiking through 4 miles of desert canyon. The ME noted it in his preliminary report. I read it that night. Condition of footwear inconsistent with claimed activity. But nobody followed up on it. Case closed. Accidental death. Tragic. But these things happen in the wilderness. People make poor decisions. They wander off trail. They fall. After Amanda's funeral, I couldn't let it go. 4 people in just over 2 months. Different ages, different backgrounds, different experience levels, but all from the same trail. All leaving vehicles behind with valuables inside. All found miles from where they should have been. If they were found at all. And those tracks. Those goddamn tracks that change from human to animal and back again. The department wanted to move on. Close the cases. Put up some warning signs about staying on marked trails and watching for loose rock. Budget was tight. We had actual crimes to investigate. Living people who needed help. But I kept thinking about those whispers around town. Something walking wrong. The way people's voices would drop when they said it. The way the Navajo families would look toward the canyon country like they could see something we couldn't. On October 9th, I drove out to see Thomas Benally. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Didn't log it. Just clocked out at the end of my shift and drove east on Route 63 until the pavement turned to gravel and the houses spread out into the scrubland. Mr. Benally was 83 years old. Dene, Navajo, born and raised on the reservation back before they redrew the boundary lines in the 1950s. He'd grown up in a hogan near Nagiezi, learned the traditional ways from his grandfather, spoke Navajo as his first language, moved off the res when he married in the 60s, bought some land out here where nobody bothered him. He lived in a double-wide off Route 63, about 5 miles from the Red Basin trailhead as the crow flies. White paint peeling in the sun, pitched metal roof, solar panels newer than the rest of the structure. He raised sheep in a pen, behind the trailer, maybe 30 head, churros mostly, sold wool and jewelry at the trading post in Colonias twice a month. I'd met him a few years back during a livestock theft case. Someone had been killing sheep throughout the area, not taking the meat, just killing them and leaving the bodies. Precise cuts on the throats, internal organs removed, no predator tracks anywhere near the carcasses. Mr. Benally had been the one to find most of the bodies, called it in every time, cooperative and polite. But there was something about him, a kind of quiet authority, a weight to his words that made you want to listen carefully when he spoke, like he knew more than he was saying but was being patient with you. The case never got solved. The killings just stopped. 16 sheep dead over 2 months, then nothing. File went cold. He was sitting on his porch when I pulled up around 2 p.m., working a piece of silver with a small butane torch, shaping a bracelet, traditional Navajo design. I could see the turquoise already set in the band. He didn't look up when I got out of my cruiser. "Officer Wade," he said. Not a question, a statement, like he'd been expecting me. "Mr. Benally, hope I'm not interrupting. Got a minute to talk?" He set down the torch carefully, pulled off his work gloves, set them on the porch railing, looked at me with eyes the color of dark coffee, deep set in a weathered face. He was thin, wiry, moved like a man 20 years younger. "You're here about the canyon," he said. "Yes, sir. Wanted to ask if you'd seen anything unusual out that way recently. I know you run sheep near there sometimes. Thought maybe you'd notice something off." He was quiet for a long moment, just looked at me. Not through me exactly, but like he was reading something written on my face that I couldn't see myself. "You want to know if I've seen it?" he finally said. "Seen what, sir?" "What's taken your hikers?" The way he said it. Not if something was taking them, not what might be taking them, just what's taking them. Matter of fact, certain, like he was talking about a coyote killing chickens or a badger digging under the fence. "Mr. Benally, with all due respect, I'm just trying to figure out what happened to these people. If you've seen someone, anyone, acting suspicious out there, or if you've heard anything from your neighbors, I need to know. Could be relevant to the investigation." He stood up slowly, old knees protesting, joints popping, and gestured toward his front door. "Come inside. This isn't a conversation for the porch." His double-wide was neat, sparse, clean. Photos on the walls, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, old black and white prints of people in traditional dress, standing in front of hoggins. A wood stove in the corner, even though it wasn't cold enough yet to need it. Navajo rugs on the floor, patterns I didn't recognize. The place smelled like coffee and sage and old wood smoke. He poured 2 cups of coffee from a percolator on the counter, handed me one, black, no sugar. We sat at his kitchen table, Formica top worn smooth from decades of use. "My grandfather told me about them when I was young," he said quietly. "Told me the rules, where not to go, what times to avoid, when to leave offerings at certain places, when to look away instead of looking closer." He sipped his coffee. "You don't believe in these things. I can see that on your face. You think it's old man superstition, stories to scare children. I didn't say that, Mr. Benally. You didn't have to." He smiled. but there was no humor in it, just sadness. But you came here anyway, because something doesn't make sense to you. Your evidence doesn't fit your theories. The pieces don't line up, so you're looking for answers, even if you don't like where they might lead. He was right. I took a sip of coffee to buy time, burned my tongue. In the old times, we had words for them, he continued. Yi Naudlushi. It means, hear the way it walks on all fours, what you call skinwalkers. Medicine people who broke the sacred taboos, did forbidden things to gain power over others. They wear the skins of animals, become those animals, walk on 4 legs or 2, take different shapes. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is they learn. They watch us. They study how we move, how we talk, how we think, what we fear, what we trust, what calls to us, and then they use it against us. Use it how? To hunt. His eyes never left mine. It wears faces now, voices. It's gotten smarter over the years, adapted to the new world. It knows what brings people into that canyon now, knows the patterns, knows how to call them deeper, how to lead them away from safety, how to make them go to places they'd never go on their own. I felt something cold slide down my spine despite the warmth of the coffee cup in my hands. Mr. Benally, I appreciate the cultural perspective, but I need concrete information. A person, a suspect, someone who might be. It's not a person anymore. He cut me off, voice firm. Maybe it was once, a long time ago. Maybe it was someone from the old days who broke the rules, did the forbidden ceremonies, killed a family member to gain power. That's how it happens in the stories. But now it's something else. Something that wears faces like you wear that uniform. Something that hunts because that's all it knows how to do. He stood up, walked to his window, looked out toward the east where the canyon country started. The afternoon light was turning golden, casting long shadows across the scrubland. Storm clouds were building over the mountains in the distance. It knows you're looking for it now, he said softly. It's watched you. It knows your face, your voice, the way you walk, the way you smell. It's probably studied you on that trail already. Learned you, memorized you. What do you mean? He turned back to face me. I mean, it'll use you when it's ready. Your voice to call someone, your shape to lead them. It'll wear you like a coat, Officer Wade. And when people see you, when they hear you calling to them from the canyon, they'll trust you. They'll follow. And you'll never even know it happened. I set down my coffee cup. My hand was shaking slightly. Mr. Benally, are you telling me you actually believe there's some kind of, what, shapeshifter in that canyon? I'm telling you, my grandfather saw one in 1937, near Shiprock. Told me about it when I was 12 years old. Told me exactly what it looked like, how it moved, what it said. He wasn't a liar, Officer Wade. He wasn't crazy. He was a Hatawi, a medicine man, and he knew the difference between natural and unnatural. Mr. Benally sat back down, met my eyes directly. I'm telling you, my cousin disappeared near Negizi in 1982. They found his truck 3 weeks later. Door open, keys in the ignition, wallet on the seat. Never found him. But people said they saw him, weeks after he disappeared, walking on the mesa at night. Walking wrong. He paused, and I'm telling you I've heard it. Out near that canyon. 3 times in the last 2 months. Heard it calling in my nephew's voice one night when I was checking the sheep. But my nephew lives in Gallup. He wasn't here. It was something else. Using his voice. Trying to get me to come closer. What did you do? I went inside, locked the doors, didn't look out the windows, said my prayers, waited for sunrise. He took a sip of coffee. You don't engage with them, Officer Wade. You don't answer when they call. You don't follow when they lead. You stay in the light and you respect the boundaries. What boundaries? Running water, sacred places, the thresholds we've marked with prayers and offerings over generations. There are rules even they have to follow. Old rules from before the white man came, before roads and towns and all of this. He gestured vaguely at the modern world outside his window. They won't cross running water unless they're invited. Won't enter a home unless the door is opened for them. Won't hunt on sacred ground. I stood up, thanked him for the coffee and the information, told him I'd keep everything he said in mind, all the polite things you say when you think someone's telling you ghost stories but you don't want to be disrespectful. He walked me to the door. As I was leaving, he put a hand on my arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. Officer Wade, one more thing. If you have to go back into that canyon, and something tells me you will, remember what I said about the water. They won't cross it, not if they can help it. The old boundaries still hold power, even now. I nodded, got in my cruiser, drove back to town thinking he was a superstitious old man who'd spent too much time alone with his sheep and his memories. That was my mistake. That was the biggest mistake I've ever made. On October 12th, I went back to Red Basin Canyon, alone. I know. Stupid move. Against protocol. Against common sense. But I was off duty. It was a clear Saturday morning, and I wanted to see the site where Amanda had fallen. I wanted to trace her route without SAR crews and media helicopters and department brass looking over my shoulder. I wanted to understand why she'd gone to that side canyon, what had drawn her there. I told myself I'd be careful. Stay on marked trails. Keep my radio on. Be back by dark. I parked at the trailhead at 10 a.m. sharp. Signed the trail register out of habit. Connor Wade, solo day hike. Expected return 1600 hours. Headed in with my day pack containing 3 liters of water, trail mix, first aid kit, headlamp, emergency blanket, paper map, compass, GPS unit, and my service weapon, Glock 40, loaded, safety on. The weather was perfect. Clear sky, temperature around 65 degrees, light breeze from the west, good hiking conditions, visibility unlimited. The canyon was beautiful in the morning light. The sandstone walls glowed orange and red and pink where the sun hit them, deep purple in the shadows. The juniper smelled sharp and clean, like gin and resin. The air was crisp, dry, comfortable. Birds were calling, ravens mostly, their voices echoing off the stone. Perfect day for a hike. I made good time. Hit the 1-mile marker in 18 minutes. Past the fork where I'd found those strange tracks in under an hour. The tracks were long gone. Wind had erased them, but I'd marked the spot with a small cairn of stones, and I found it easily. I kept going deeper. Amanda had been found 4 miles past the official trail end, up a side canyon to the northwest. The recovery team had marked the site with surveyor's tape, bright orange ribbons tied to rocks and branches so they could find it again if needed. That tape should still be there. The trail narrowed as I went deeper. The canyon walls pressed in closer, sometimes only 10 or 15 feet apart. The sky reduced to a ribbon of blue overhead. The temperature dropped in the shade. The silence got heavier, thicker. No more bird calls, no insects, no lizards skittering across the rocks. Just my boots on stone and my own breathing and the soft whisper of wind through the canyon. I reached the spot where Amanda had fallen around noon. It was exactly like the recovery team had described in their report. A narrow side canyon branching off to the northwest, ending in a cliff face about 30 feet high. Loose scree and broken rock at the bottom. I could see dried blood on the stones where she'd landed. The dark brown now, oxidized, baked into the porous sandstone by 5 days of Sunday. Someone had left flowers, wilted now, petals scattered by the wind, turning brown and brittle. A small cross made of sticks tied together with twine. A laminated photo of Amanda, smiling, healthy, alive. Weighted down with a rock, I took photos of the site, documented the approach angle, looked for any sign of what might have led her to try climbing that cliff face. Found nothing. No trail, no cairns, no reason. I was about to head back when I noticed something. Footprints in the dust near the base of the cliff. Fresh ones. Couldn't have been more than a few days old, based on how crisp the edges were. Boot prints, men's size 10 or 11. They approached the cliff from the south, circled the memorial, then headed deeper into the side canyon past where Amanda had fallen. Someone had been here recently. After the recovery team, after the funeral, I followed the prints. They led me maybe 50 yards farther up the side canyon, winding between boulders and around a tight bend. Then, the canyon opened into a small alcove, maybe 20 feet across, sheltered by an overhang in the canyon wall, hidden from view unless you knew exactly where to look, and that's where I found the campsite, except it wasn't a campsite. Not really. Someone had arranged items in a perfect circle on the flat ground. A water bottle, Nalgene brand, blue, half full, a baseball cap, San Francisco Giants, faded orange and black, a red bandana, edges frayed, a single hiking boot, left foot, women's size 7, Merrill brand, a pair of sunglasses with one lens cracked, an energy bar wrapper, Cliff Bar, chocolate chip, a hair tie with brown hair still tangled in it, a small stuffed animal, a rabbit, white fur turned gray, one button eye missing. All of it looked used, worn, personal, like it had belonged to different people at different times. In the center of the circle was a pile of stones, maybe 20 or 30 of them, stacked carefully like a small cairn, and smeared across the stones was something dark, rust-colored, dried and flaking in places. I didn't need to get closer to know what it was. My heart was hammering, hands shaking. I pulled out my phone, took photos from every angle, documented the entire scene, marked the GPS coordinates, 35.731 degrees north, 105.38, 8 degrees west. Someone had been collecting trophies, items from the missing hikers. Had to be. That giant's cap. That was James Coe's. He'd been wearing it in the photo his brother showed me. And the boot, women's size 7. That could have been Amanda's or Sarah's. This was evidence. Crime scene. I needed to call it in. Get forensics out here. Process the scene properly. I reached for my radio. Dead. Battery indicator showed full charge that morning, but the screen was black. Wouldn't turn on no matter what button I pressed. I pulled out my phone. No signal. I expected that. But the phone itself was glitching. Screen flickering. Apps opening and closing randomly. Battery draining while I watched. Went from 78% to 43% to 18% in the span of maybe 10 seconds. Then it died completely. GPS unit. Same thing. Black screen. Dead. All my electronics. Dead. I felt the first real stab of fear then. Not the professional alertness you get responding to a dangerous call. Actual primal fear. The kind that makes your hands go cold and your vision narrow and your hindbrain starts screaming at you to run. I backed away from the circle slowly. Didn't want to disturb the scene. Didn't want to touch anything. Just needed to get back to the main trail. Get back to my cruiser. Call this in on the vehicle radio. That's when I heard the voice. Connor. I froze. The voice came from behind me. Back the way I'd come. Male voice. Familiar. It sounded exactly like my partner. Deputy Luis Ramos. Connor. Wait up, man. But Ramos was on duty today. I'd seen the schedule that morning. He was working traffic enforcement on Highway 54, 70 miles north of here. He wasn't in this canyon. Connor. Over here. The voice was closer now. Off to my left, deeper in the side canyon. Not echoing like a voice should in this confined space. Just there. Present. Like someone was standing right next to me speaking in my ear. I put my hand on my sidearm, thumb on the retention strap. Who's there? Identify yourself. Silence. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, measured. Boot heels on rock. Coming from the direction of the main trail. Getting closer, a figure stepped into view around the bend. Ranger uniform. BLM standard issue. Tan shirt. Green pants. Flat-brimmed campaign hat. Gun belt. Radio. Name tag I couldn't read from this distance. I couldn't see the face clearly. The hat brim cast it in shadow. But I recognized the build, the height, the way he stood. It was Kyle Davis. BLM Ranger I'd worked with on maybe a dozen search and rescue operations over the years. Good guy. Professional. Knew the backcountry better than anyone. Davis? I called out. That you? The figure stopped about 30 yards away. Didn't respond. Just stood there in the middle of the narrow canyon, hands at his sides. Davis. What are you doing out here? Thought you were assigned to the Northern District this rotation. Still nothing. Then he raised one hand in a slow wave. The movement was wrong. Stiff. Like his elbow bent at a slightly different angle than it should. Like someone who'd learned how to wave by watching videos but had never actually done it themselves. That's when I noticed his boots. They were completely clean. Spotless. Spit shined like dress uniform boots. No dust. No dirt. No scuff marks. Like they'd just come out of the box. But I'd just watched him walk through 50 yards of dusty canyon. His boots should be covered in that fine red powder that coats everything out here. Davis, I need you to identify yourself. Right now. The figure tilted its head. The movement was too far. Neck bending at an angle that would have hurt a normal person. And I heard a sound. A soft crack. Like joints popping. Like a fresh deer carcass being quartered at a processing station. Then, it started walking toward me. Stop right there, I said, unsnapping my holster. Don't come any closer. It kept walking. Slow, measured steps. And with each step, I saw more details that were wrong. The knees, bent backward just slightly. Not fully reversed like a bird's legs, but wrong enough to notice. Bending the way a digitigrade animal's hind legs bend, not the way human knees should move. The arms swung too loose at the sides, too long, the hands hanging down almost to the knees. The campaign hat still covered most of the face, but I caught a glimpse of something underneath, skin that didn't quite fit right, pulled too tight over the skull like a mask that was one size too small. Connor? It spoke in Davis's voice. Perfect imitation, same tone, same slight Texas drawl. Come help me find them. They're still out here, in the canyon. We need to keep looking, but the mouth wasn't moving right. The jaw shifted side to side, grinding, like it was chewing on the words before spitting them out. Every instinct I'd honed in 6 years of law enforcement was screaming at me. This wasn't Davis. This wasn't human. This was something wearing a uniform like a costume, mimicking a voice like a recording, walking like it had learned from observation but had never quite gotten the mechanics right. I drew my sidearm. Glock 40, 15 rounds, hollow points. Stay where you are. I will use force if necessary. It stopped. Maybe 15 yards away now. Close enough that I could smell it. Wet dog, copper, rotting meat. The smell of roadkill that had been lying in the sun for 3 days. The smell of something dead that was moving around anyway. They're deeper in, it said. Still Davis's voice. Still that wrong jaw movement. I found their camp. Found where they'd been hiding. Come with me. I'll show you. You need to see this, Connor. You need to understand what happened to them. I started backing up, weapon still trained on it, moving toward the mouth of the side canyon. I'm leaving. Don't follow me. It tilted its head again. Then it smiled. The smile was too wide, splitting the face almost to the ears. And I saw teeth. Too many teeth. Filed to points, stained yellow-brown. Not human teeth. Predator teeth. Connor. The voice changed. Now it was Ramos's voice again. Don't leave yet, man. We're not done here. We just got started. I turned and ran. Fuck protocol. Fuck the investigation. Fuck trying to be professional. I ran like my life depended on it. Because it did. Boots hammering the dirt. Pack bouncing against my back. Heart slamming in my chest so hard I thought it might break a rib. Breathing in ragged gasps. Behind me I could hear it. Not running. Just walking. Boot heels on rock, steady and measured. But the footsteps were keeping pace with me. Matching my speed exactly even though I was sprinting full out. Lungs burning, legs pumping, which meant it could move faster than I could. It was just choosing not to. It was toying with me, and then I started hearing other voices. My mother's voice, calling from somewhere to the left. Connor, honey, where are you going? Wait for me. My ex-wife's voice, from the right. Connor, please. We need to talk about this. The sheriff's voice, up ahead on the trail. Wade, get back here. That's an order. All of them saying variations of the same thing. Come back. Stop running. Wait for us. We need you. But I could hear the wrongness in every voice. The slight delay between syllables. Like audio sync that's off by a fraction of a second. The mechanical quality underneath. Like a text-to-speech program trying to sound human. The way certain words were emphasized wrong. Stressed on the wrong syllable. I didn't stop. Didn't look. Just kept running. The canyon forked ahead of me. Main trail split into 2 paths, left and right. I'd come in on the left fork. I was sure of it. Pretty sure. The fork looked different from this angle. Disorienting. I chose left and kept sprinting. The voices followed. Multiplying now. My old training officer from the academy. My high school football coach. My grandfather who died when I was 8 years old. All calling my name. All telling me to stop, to wait, to come back. All of them wrong. I pulled my compass from my chest pocket while running. The needle was spinning, not pointing north, just spinning in circles like the magnetic field had gone haywire. Useless. Paper map. I yanked it from my pack, but the trail layout didn't match what I was seeing. The fork I'd just passed wasn't on the map, or it was in the wrong place. Or the map was upside down. I couldn't tell anymore. Everything looked the same. Red sandstone, juniper, packed dirt. I was lost. In a canyon I'd hiked 3 times before. On a trail I'd studied on the map for hours, in broad daylight. I was completely lost. Then I came around another bend and saw it again. The figure in the ranger uniform, standing in the middle of the trail ahead of me. Waiting. Still. Patient. I skidded to a stop, loose gravel spraying under my boots, spun around to go back the other way. It was behind me too. Same figure, same uniform, same horrible too-wide smile under the campaign hat. Two of them, or the same one, somehow ahead and behind me at once, in two places simultaneously, breaking the laws of physics because it was something that didn't follow laws anymore. I crashed off the trail, into the junipers, scrambling up the loose scree of the canyon wall. Branches tore at my face and hands, scratching deep gouges. My boots slipped on the loose rock, sending small avalanches tumbling behind me. I grabbed at roots and rock holds, pulling myself upward, not thinking, just moving, just trying to get away. I could hear them following, not crashing through the brush like I was, not scrambling, just walking, steady footsteps on stone, patient, unhurried, like they knew exactly where I was going and didn't need to rush, like they knew I had nowhere to go. I topped the rise, lungs screaming for air, and found myself in a small box canyon. Dead end, sandstone walls on three sides, maybe 30 feet high, sheer faces too steep to free climb without gear. The only way out was back the way I came, where they were waiting. I could see them now, both figures, silhouettes standing at the mouth of the box canyon, backlit by the noon Sunday. Not moving, just watching, waiting to see what I'd do. My service weapon was still in my hand. I raised it, aimed at the closer figure. Stay back. Not. Neither of them moved. I will shoot! Nothing. Just silence. Just the sound of my own ragged breathing and the blood pounding in my ears. And then I remembered what Mr. Benally had said, his words echoing in my head like he was standing right next to me. Running water. They won't cross running water unless they're invited. The old boundaries still hold power. I fumbled for my paper map with shaking hands, nearly dropped it, unfolded it with fingers that felt numb. Found my approximate location, somewhere in the northern section of the canyon system, Red Basin Creek. It cut across the trail about a quarter-mile back, maybe less. I'd crossed it on my way in, small wooden footbridge over a creek maybe 10 feet wide, water running year-round from snowmelt up in the mountains. If I could get to that creek, if I could get across the water, but the only way there was past them. I looked around the box canyon desperately, frantically, trying to find another way. There, on the western wall, a narrow cleft in the rock, maybe 3 feet wide at the opening, narrowing as it went up. A vertical crack in the stone. I holstered my weapon and squeezed into the cleft sideways. The rough sandstone scraped my chest and back through my shirt, tore at my arms. I had to turn my head to the side to fit. The cleft twisted, turned, dropped at a sharp angle. I wedged myself in and started descending. The rock was cold, damp in places where water had seeped through over centuries. My boots scraped and slipped on the smooth stone. I had to move sideways, crabbing along, sometimes turning completely around when the cleft narrowed too much to fit face first. It felt like being swallowed, like being digested, like the earth was trying to crush me, but I could hear water. Faint at first, then louder. The soft gurgle and splash of Red Basin Creek somewhere below. The cleft opened suddenly, and I half fell, half slid down a slope of loose gravel and scree, landing hard on my right shoulder. Pain shot through my arm like electricity. I tasted blood, had bitten my tongue during the fall, but I forced myself up, forced myself to move. The creek was right there, maybe 10 or 12 feet wide, 6 inches deep in most places, running clear and cold over smooth stones. The water looked black in the shade of the canyon. On the other side was the main trail, I could see my own boot prints from this morning in the sandy soil. And beyond that, through the canyon, maybe half a mile away, the parking lot, my white cruiser with the county seal on the door, sitting in the Sunday. Safety. Civilization. The normal world. I splashed into the creek without hesitation. The water was shockingly cold. Snow melt. Probably no more than 40 degrees. My boots filled immediately. Water soaking through my socks, my pant legs, weighing me down. The current was stronger than it looked, pushing against my legs, trying to sweep my feet out from under me. I was 3 steps in, halfway across, when I heard the footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate. Getting closer, I looked back. The figure stood at the creek bank, maybe 10 feet from the water's edge. Just stood there, watching me. The ranger uniform was wrong now, torn in places, hanging loose like it was 3 sizes too big, showing something dark and matted underneath. Not fur exactly, more like hair that had been glued or grafted onto skin. Long patches of it, uneven, wrong. The campaign hat was askew now, knocked to the side, and I could see the face clearly. It wasn't Davis's face. It wasn't anyone's face. Just a blank expanse of skin stretched over a skull, pulled tight like a drum head, with eyes and a mouth cut into it, carved into it, like someone had taken a knife and just carved out the features roughly, approximately, not caring about accuracy. The eyes were yellow, not the whites. The entire eye, glowing faintly even in the daylight, like phosphorescence, like foxfire, like something radioactive. It opened the mouth. My voice came out. "Connor, don't go. Don't leave me here. We're not finished yet. There's so much I want to show you, so many things you need to see, so many people I want you to meet." I stumbled backward, lost my footing on the slick stones, fell hard in the creek. Cold water closed over my head for a second. I came up gasping, choking, scrambled toward the opposite bank on my hands and knees, rocks cutting my palms, water in my nose and mouth. I crawled up the far bank, grabbed a juniper branch, pulled myself onto dry land. When I looked back, it was still standing there, at the water's edge, not crossing. It raised one hand. The hand was wrong too. Fingers too long, too many joints, tipped with black claws that looked more like talons. It waved at me, slow, deliberate, the same gesture it had made on the trail, mocking me, or maybe acknowledging something. Like we'd just played a game and it was congratulating me for surviving the first round. Then it spoke again. Not in my voice this time. In a voice I didn't recognize. Gravelly. Wrong. Like rocks grinding together. Like a landslide speaking. "Next time, Connor Wade. Next time you won't run fast enough. Next time the water will be too far away. Next time I'll have learned more of your face. More of your voice, more of what makes you trust, and follow and listen." It smiled, that too wide smile that split the face to the ears. "And next time I'll wear you better." I ran to my cruiser, hands shaking so bad I dropped my keys twice before I got the door open. Threw myself inside, locked all the doors with my elbow while I jammed the key in the ignition. Started the engine with my foot jammed on the brake, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The radio crackled to life. "NIT 7, what's your 20? I grabbed the handset with a shaking hand. "Unit 7 to dispatch. I'm code 4, returning to station." "Copy that, Unit 7. We show you logged into Red Basin Trailhead this morning. That correct?" "Affirmative. Personal vehicle. Off duty. Heading back now. Everything okay out there, Connor? You doing all right?" I looked in the rearview mirror. The figure was still visible in the distance, at the edge of the tree line near where the trail disappeared into the canyon, standing there, watching. Yeah, I lied. My voice came out hoarse. Everything's fine. Just twisted my ankle a little. Ready to get home. Wait out. I put the cruiser in drive and drove away from that place like the devil himself was chasing me, which, in a way, he was. I didn't go back to the station. Didn't go home. Drove straight to the Benally place. Didn't call ahead. Didn't check in with anyone. Just drove, white-knuckled and soaking wet, clothes sticking to me, water squishing in my boots with every breath. It was 3:15 p.m. when I pulled into his driveway. He was on his porch, working the same piece of silver he'd been shaping 4 days ago. He looked up as I got out of my cruiser, saw my face, saw my wet clothes and the scratches on my face and hands and the look in my eyes. He set down his tool slowly. "You saw it," he said. Not a question. I nodded. Couldn't seem to find words. Just nodded. "And you made it across the water." "Yeah." He came down the porch steps, looked me over carefully, like he was checking for injuries I couldn't see. "Come inside. You need to sit down. You're in shock." I followed him into the double wide. He poured me coffee I didn't taste, made me sit at the table, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders even though the day was warm. I was shaking, couldn't stop. "Tell me," he said quietly. So I told him. Everything. The circle of trophies, the voice calling my name, the figure in the ranger uniform that moved wrong, the way it had mimicked Ramos's voice, Davis's appearance, the way my electronics had died, the way it had appeared ahead of me and behind me at the same time, the way it had stopped at the water's edge. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "You're lucky," he finally said. "It was testing you, learning you, seeing how you react when you're afraid, what makes you run, what you trust, how you move when you're panicked." He met my eyes. "Now it knows your face, your voice, your smell, your fear. It can wear them all, use them to call others. What the hell is it?" My voice cracked. "What am I dealing with here? What I told you. Yi Naod Lushi, Skinwalker. Something that used to be human. Maybe a long time ago. Maybe centuries. But it broke the sacred laws, did the forbidden ceremonies, killed someone it shouldn't have killed, wore the skin of something it shouldn't have worn. And now it's this thing that hunts in the thin places, the dark places, the places between what's known and what's feared. How do I stop it?" He shook his head slowly. "You don't. You can't. It's already dead, Officer Wade. Has been for a very long time. Your gun won't stop it. Your laws don't apply to it. You can't arrest something that doesn't exist in the same world you do. Then what do? You stay away from that canyon. You warn others to stay away. You close the trail permanently if you can. And you hope, you pray, that it loses interest, that it finds easier hunting ground somewhere else." He paused. "And you respect the boundaries it respects, the running water, the sacred places, the old rules that still have power even now, the people who disappeared," I said quietly. "Sarah Vickers, James Coe, Tyler Brennan, Amanda Herrera, the others. It killed them, didn't it?" Mr. Benally looked toward the window, toward where the canyon country started in the distance. "Some, maybe. The ones it couldn't use. The ones who ran too far, or fought too hard, or weren't what it needed." He turned back to me. "But others, it probably changed. Led them so deep into the darkness they forgot who they were, or showed them things that broke their minds, or made them into something like itself." He stood up, walked to a cabinet, pulled out a small leather pouch, opened it, and poured something into his palm. Herbs, dried and crushed. He held them out to me. Cedar and sage. Traditional mix. Burn this in your house tonight. In the corners of every room. It won't stop it from coming if it really wants to, but it'll make things harder for it. Make your space less inviting, and it might help you sleep without dreaming of it. I took the pouch. Mr. Benally, it said something before I left. It said next time it would wear me better. What did it mean? He was quiet for a moment. It means it's going to use you now. Your voice to call people you know. Your shape to lead them. When your friends and family and co-workers see you in that canyon. When they hear you calling for help. They'll trust you. They'll follow. He met my eyes, and you'll never even know it happened until you find out someone you care about went missing after they said they saw you. Jesus Christ. Keep your people close, Officer Wade. Tell them if they ever see you in that canyon, if they ever hear you calling from the dark, to not trust it. Tell them to check for things. Ask questions only you would know the answer to. Look for the signs. Wrong movement. Wrong speech patterns. Wrong details. He paused. Tell them to run if something feels wrong. Even if it looks exactly like you. I sat there in his kitchen, wrapped in a blanket, drinking coffee I couldn't taste, trying to process what he was telling me. One more thing, he said. If it calls to you again, and it will, don't answer. Don't go looking. Don't try to confront it or understand it or make it make sense. It's not of this world anymore. It doesn't follow rules you understand, and every time you engage with it, you give it more of yourself to use. I finished the coffee and stood up. Thanked him. Got back in my cruiser with the pouch of herbs clutched in my hand. Officer Wade, he called as I was pulling out. I stopped, rolled down the window. What your grandfather told you, I said, about seeing one near Shiprock in 37. What happened to him after that? Mr. Benally's face went very still. He never spoke about it again, not for the rest of his life. Wouldn't go near that area. Wouldn't let any of us kids go there either. He paused, but sometimes, late at night, I'd hear him talking in his sleep, talking to something that wasn't there, arguing with it, telling it to leave him alone. Another pause. He died in his sleep when I was 17, but the night before he said he saw something standing at the edge of his property, something wearing his brother's face. His brother had been dead for 20 years. What are you saying? I'm saying it doesn't forget, Officer Wade. Once it knows you forever, and it can be very, very patient. I drove home, burned the herbs in every corner of my house like he'd told me. Didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house settling made me jump. Every shadow seemed wrong. The next morning I filed my report at the station. Incident number 2025-1012. I wrote about finding the circle of items in the side canyon, documented the GPS coordinates, described each object, noted that several items potentially matched belongings of missing persons. I left out everything else, left out the voices, left out the figure in the ranger uniform, left out the way my electronics had died and the way it had appeared in 2 places at once and the way it had stopped at the water's edge. Who would believe me? I barely believed it myself. And I'd lived through it. I recommended the site be investigated by forensics. Recommended the trail be closed pending investigation. Submitted my report and went home. 2 days later, the forensics team went in. County crime scene techs, state police backup, the whole procedure. They found the circle, photographed it, collected the items for evidence processing. The baseball cap was confirmed as James Coe's. DNA match from the sweatband. The hair tie had DNA matching Sarah Vickers. The boot was Amanda Herrera's. Size 7, right foot, matched the left boot she'd been wearing when they found her body. The dark substance on the stones tested as human blood. Multiple sources, degraded by sun and time, but definitely human. The site was consistent with a serial killer's trophy cache. That was the official determination. Someone, some human, someone, was abducting hikers from Red Basin Trail, killing them, and collecting souvenirs. APB went out. FBI got involved. Media went crazy. Serial killer hunting hikers in New Mexico ran on every news station for a week, but they never found a suspect. Never found more bodies. Never found any evidence beyond that one cache of items. And nobody except me mentioned the boot prints that changed from human to animal. Nobody mentioned the way the scene felt wrong, like it had been staged by something that understood human behavior but wasn't quite human itself. On October 17th, the county officially closed Red Basin Trail, chain link fence across the parking lot entrance. Signs posted, area closed by order of San Miguel County Sheriff, no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. The official reason was ongoing criminal investigation and public safety concerns. The real reason, the one nobody would say out loud, was that nobody wanted to be responsible for more disappearances. The trail is still closed today. Probably will be for a long time. Years, maybe. Every few months, someone calls the department asking when it'll reopen. Good hiking, they say. Beautiful views. They want access to the canyon. I take those calls when I can. I tell them it's a public safety issue. Ongoing investigation. Unstable rock formations. Liability concerns. I don't tell them the truth. Most people wouldn't believe me if I did, but I'll tell you this. If you're out hiking and the old folks in the area tell you something walks wrong in a place, listen to them. If the locals warn you about certain trails, certain canyons, certain areas to avoid, listen. They're not being superstitious. They're not being paranoid. They're not just telling scary stories. They're passing down knowledge that will keep you alive. And if you're ever in the backcountry and someone calls your name in a voice you recognize, make damn sure you can see who's doing the talking before you answer. Look at their boots. Check if they're clean when they should be dirty. Watch how their knees bend when they walk. Listen for that slight delay in their speech, that mechanical quality underneath the familiar tone. Check their eyes. See if they reflect light right. See if they blink enough, because sometimes the person calling your name isn't a person at all. Sometimes it's something that learned your voice by listening, learned your face by watching, learned your mannerisms by studying you from the shadows while you hiked past, completely unaware you were being memorized. And it's trying to figure out if you're worth wearing, if you're worth using to call someone else into the dark. I still work the Red Basin area, still patrol Route 63 in the reservation boundary, still take calls about livestock theft and domestic disputes and drunk drivers, but I don't go back to that canyon. Ever. Not even for official business. If someone reports something there, I send another deputy. I make excuses. I stay away. Because 3 weeks ago, October 29th, I got a call at 2 a.m. Woman in Colonia's reporting someone looking in her windows. She was terrified, crying. Said a sheriff's deputy was standing in her backyard just staring at her through the glass. I was on duty that night, working the desk at the substation, filing paperwork. I'd been there all night. Hadn't left the building, but she described the deputy perfectly. My height, my build, county uniform, badge number that matched mine. Even described the small scar on my left hand from a barbed wire fence 2 years ago. I sent 2 units to her house. They searched the property, found boot prints in the dirt outside her bedroom window. Men's size 11. Same size I wear, but the stride was wrong. Too long. And there were other prints mixed in. Paw prints, canine, large. We filed it as attempted burglary. Peeping Tom. Case went cold after 2 weeks of investigation turned up nothing, but I know what it was. It's wearing me now. My face, my voice, my uniform, using me to approach people who might trust a cop, who might open a door or follow me somewhere dark if I told them I needed help or there'd been an accident or I needed to ask them some questions. Mr. Benally was right. It's patient, it learns, and it doesn't forget. So I'll say it one more time because it's important, because someone reading this might need to hear it. Listen to your elders. Listen to your old folks. Listen to your wise people who've lived on the land for generations and know its secrets and its dangers. When they tell you something walks wrong in a place, they're not being senile. They're not losing their minds. They're not just trying to scare you. They're passing down knowledge that will keep you alive. Sometimes the old warnings exist for a reason. Sometimes folklore is just history that nobody wanted to write down. Sometimes the monsters in the stories are real. They're just patient enough to wait until nobody believes in them anymore. And sometimes the thing wearing a familiar face and calling your name from the darkness isn't your friend at all. It's just something that learned to walk on 2 legs instead of 4. Something that remembers when the desert belonged to older things than us. Something that's still hunting. If this story left you looking over your shoulder, you're not alone. There are places in this world where the old rules still apply, where things hunt that shouldn't exist, where the warnings passed down through generations are the only things standing between us and something we were never meant to understand. Hit that like button if this one got under your skin. Drop a comment about your own experiences with places that felt wrong, and subscribe for more stories from the edge of what we know. Because out there, in the quiet places where the old warnings still echo, some things are still waiting, still watching, still learning our faces, and sometimes they're learning yours too.